Later, Eisenstein's own views on maggoty issues would themselves evolve. He became ever more interested in states of becoming, in things with shifting plasmatic contours. He says, visitors to my Moscow apartment are usually frightened by one trifle that peeks out from the piles of tumbled books on the shelves. This trifle swims in a solution of formaldehyde. It has a pale gray transparent color and in general is a fetus, one that has just taken on the features of a human being. Well, Eisenstein had first fallen in love with fetuses on a sunny day in Zurich, Switzerland. He wrote in his journal, "There came a day when I both rose to the highest limits to which a person can hope to rise and descended to the lowest depths out of which a person emerges. It was on the same sunny day in Zurich. In the morning, I flew with the now deceased Mittelholzer on the snowy whiteness of the Alps. In the afternoon, we piled into the no less crystalline whiteness of one of the best women's clinics of Switzerland. Here, for the first time, on a napkin, I saw a little living being dying in my hands in about 10 minutes after its premature appearance in the world. This stage of life interested me very much." While the fetus was a fascinating object to Eisenstein, all potential, all contour, still flexible in its identity. Plus, we should add dead, which may have just added to its charms for the extremely darkly dialectical Eisenstein. He liked to compare fetuses to all sorts of things with flexible contours, like Mickey Mouse, like clowns, like interestingly androgynous people. Being like a maggot, inasmuch as maggots are like fetuses or Mickey Mouse are like a person in drag, becomes then more positive. It's a way of being something that is not yet committed to only one thing at one time. That has become more and more true for Eisenstein as he moves into the 30s and 40s, a period when he kept returning to the theme of what he called bisex. His epic film of the 1940s, Ivan the Terrible, especially part 2, closes with a kind of perverse and piercing wedding, when the ill-fated fool Vladimir, having put on the Tsar's robes, enters into an ancient exchange whose origins Eisenstein traces right back to the old marriage custom, which you may have never heard of bride and groom trading clothes. Eisenstein writes, "The exchange of clothes and of places between king and slave is not only a phenomenon of a piece with the exchange of male and female clothing, but the direct derivative of that exchange. A man and a woman exchange clothing entering into marriage. In the case of Ivan and Vladimir, this wedding will find its consummation only in death, as Vladimir is pierced by the knife intended for the Tsar." So, Eisenstein's thrilled because the transvestitism of the wedding is itself a kind of substitute for more primitive exchanges. The exchange of clothing, he writes, is the exchange of male and female essences. The crudest form of the materialization of these essences is the different sexual organs, such as the exchange of clothing is the exchange of organs, the exchange of essences. He gets very excited about this indeed. In its play with contours and sexual plasmaticness, Maggots and Men could not be more Eisensteinian, except for one really, really important thing. Eisenstein would want more piercing pleasures. So we have to listen to him, for instance, on the subject of bullfights. He writes, "We can see why the bullfight is still alive today in Spain. For think of the image of the matador, who in the simultaneous attempt of the bull and the man to rush at each other, pierces with his sword, like a flash of lightning into the blackness splashed with foam, the blackness of the fiery element of the horned monster that, according to tradition, once kidnapped Europa, and damn it, I understand Europa's yielding to this black devil who tramples everything with his hoofs." Yes, I think the lesson is that utopias are a lot like snowflakes. They're slightly different for every one of us seeking them. That was probably part of the tragedy behind the Kronstadt Rebellion. But for me, utopia involves lots of experimental, neo-silent experimental films with loving homage to the Soviet 20s. So honestly, for me today, utopia is here, and I'm tickled to have found my way here. Thanks.